Hey y'all, I'm Benjamin Wiessner. I'm your moderator for today's panel, which is short to feature filmmaker case studies. This is the Proof Film Festival. We're so glad to be here. We're really excited that this is a new event on the schedule from American Cinematheque, and really thrilled to see where it goes from here. So thank you for being a part of it. This is an hour-long panel. I have some questions. We'll be kind of talking through some things, but something I've always found is like, this isn't our panel, this is yours. So like, let's get the questions going. You can come up to the mic, and so I'll try to do basically like half and half. So we'll start with like 25, 30 minutes of just introducing some of where we've been coming from, what we've been doing, and then yeah, let's talk about what y'all need and where you are too. So, Micah, you want to start us off with a little bit about yourself and some about what's going on with Snake Oil's song, both the short and the feature.
Certainly will do. Yeah, thanks for having us here. My name is Micah Ben Hove. I'm a filmmaker. I've been making stuff for about 15 years. Just went straight to making features like a total idiot. And it took me about maybe 12 years to discover there's something called short films. And I made a couple of those and went to the lab, which was a wonderful experience, and got to develop and kind of, instead of jumping 0 to 100, kind of going through a more organic process of developing something, which was a lot of fun, and it's been several years in the making. We are very, very near completion, but still not finished with the film that we put through the lab, which is called Snake Oil Song, which we shot on location in Colombia in 2021 in the jungle. It was a jungle movie, which is not recommended. Yeah, just happy to be here and happy to answer questions or help out as I can.
And can you tell us just a little bit about like what your short film was, and then what the feature's about?
Sure.
Other than jungle.
Jungle.
There's river too.
Yeah, I'm trying to remain gotta remain very mysterious here. My NDA will be breached. So in 2018, I attended a filmmaking workshop with Werner Herzog in the Peruvian Amazon jungle. There was like 50 filmmakers in the Amazon making short films, living with Werner and freaking out for 10 days. And out of that program, my film finished first place, and then I got to like go to Munich and like meet Werner Herzog's lawyer and shit, and like get drunk with his lawyer and the guy who like built the boat in Fitzcarraldo. So that was very cool. And then so basically I made a short film there, which was very much inspired by a man that I met who lived there in Peru. And I took his stories and immediately wanted to tell his stories on a bigger canvas with a larger film. So that's what I was working on ever since 2018. And took that short to Ben and Jim's lab and developed it there.
What's up, Anna? Thank you for coming out.
Hey.
Tell us a little bit about yourself and about Disfluency.
Great. My name is Anna Baumgarten, and me and Micah were in the first class, which was in 2018, the inaugural class.
The best class?
Yeah, so we've had quite a journey just collectively, so it's really great to be here. I was in the short to feature lab a couple years out of film school, and I came in with a short film that I had written and produced, and I had submitted it and came in not knowing if I wanted to direct it. I had a lot of imposter syndrome around it. And I think I was the youngest person at I don't know.
Yeah, probably that.
I felt like it. Yeah. I felt like a little baby because I hadn't done as many wonderful shorts and features as some of my cohorts had done. But I got there, and like Ben and Jim and Danny Madden and everyone else was just like, just direct it. Just do it. And I got to the point where I felt like I could, and so I took on that role of director, and we shot the film in 2019, in the fall, winter of 2019, and then the pandemic happened. We still had some pickup stuff and whatnot, so it's been a minute, but we've been on the festival circuit for about 2 years now. It's been doing great, and it will come out early next year. So we're really excited to release Disfluency And should I talk about like the content of the?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Just like give them a little background of like what you were talking through, and then so we can develop that idea of like how these things come together.
Great. Okay. So I had, in film school, I did have a background in directing. I didn't just fully jump into a feature. Like I had a thesis in directing, so my imposter syndrome was, imposter syndrome. Like I had done it before and I knew what I was doing.
Fucked up society. Yeah.
Yeah. So with that said, I was out of school and I had been assaulted in college, which is unfortunate but not surprising. And the way that I work through things is I write about them. So the short script was something I was just working through with my own experience. And the short script disfluency, so I'll start with what disfluency means. We don't speak fluently, not like how we write. Like we write in full sentences, periods, all of that. When we speak, it is what I'm doing now, which is starting and stopping, and repeating things. And so I was having panic attacks at the time, and I got hyperfixated on, or I was having panic attacks at the time, and I was very nonverbal during these, but sorry was one of the words that I could say when I would be experiencing this. So I started looking at the word sorry and how I was using it in my everyday language, and started thinking about how we throw it into things, and it's not just you're apologizing, it'll just come out. And then I started looking at other words used like that, like and totally and all of those words that we use. And those are filler words, which is under the umbrella of disfluency. So the short film is very focused on filler words, and it's like a class lecture. And one of the only words the main character says is sorry throughout the film, from before she is, like, from her everyday life to post her assault, and kind of reconciling with it and carrying on. And then the feature film, and that all took place like at university, but the feature film takes place post-college. Nobody knows what happened yet, and it's about her coming to terms with it after, like, in a fun summer coming of age story that we shot in my parents' backyard on the lake I grew up on in Michigan.
And it's something I love so much about it is like you're dealing with these very difficult things, but then like the Trojan horse is like a really lovely like college comedy, like lake comedy type of thing. So it's like how do you bring these subjects to life in a way that like there is the spoonful of sugar to help that medicine go down? And I think you do such a great job with that. I realized that I got distracted by the panelist intro and didn't say anything other than my name. So
tell the people.
So I run the short to feature lab with Jim Cummings. We're open for submissions for like another 2 weeks. If any of y'all have short films, maybe, that you're looking to turn into features. And then, so I've been producing with him basically since college. He was my producing partner before he started directing with Thunder Road. So we did that. I helped run Vanishing Angle, where we do lots of other films. Way too often they're like cold and in the winter, but we're looking to fix that. So let's dive into like a little bit about what that lab experience was like for y'all. And especially like you're coming into this, we didn't know what was going on. We just like, we came up in a film industry, like everything just fell out of the economy. Y'all might know how that feels. It happens a few times to us. So it went from a place where like there was a lot of mentorship and there was a lot of help in independent film and a kind of responsibility from these older generations of filmmakers raising that next generation. And then when we came out, all of the producers were suddenly doing twice as many projects for less money, and a lot of that had kind of disappeared. And so we saw some of these like kind of bigger things where they're great and they're formal, like Sundance Institute, and there were a few of those programs. But we also felt this like real responsibility to figure out like how to send the ladder back down in a way of near peer mentorship, and how important that is of like Thunder Road hadn't even come out yet. Like we came up with this idea, we were kind of passionate about it, and we just threw open submissions on Film Freeway, and kind of the way that we had done with our films, kind of built the plane as we were flying. So it was this like real trust that we had of like, oh, well, now how do we go through this and figure out how to like watch 600 submissions and like pick these films and then get everybody here. And so what was it like to kind of like not know as you're coming into this, like nobody had probably seen Thunder Road yet. This was August of 2018. So like as we're at the lab, we're putting together the materials, we're like doing this process in front of everybody of the self-distribution so we could kind of open that up. But yeah, that's a long rambly question.
Wait, what was the question?
The question originally had been, before I started vamping, about like what was that feeling of like coming into this space, trying to define yourself in it, and like especially about what the cohort is and what that means to like have these other filmmakers.
Well, I always thought like workshops and labs and things is basically were just all bullshit, and I'm just so anti-authoritarian. I just like, or just not authoritarian, just authority in general. I'm just like, okay, well, if there's a group of people doing something, well, fuck that. Like, I'm not interested. And the first time I ever applied to anything to do anything was that Herzog thing, because I thought Herzog was a badass. He doesn't give a shit about this stuff, so let's do that. And it was like that, and that was a great experience. And so I came off that, and I was like, okay, wow, there is really something beautiful about just getting people together and like making stuff and talking to each other, and it's actually like really helpful and needed and crucial. And so it was around that time that I came across the short to feature submission. I'm not sure how I came across it, probably because I was a writer for No Film School, the website, for like many years, and I would get lots of press releases for all kinds of programs and stuff, and because they want me to advertise it or write about it. So I probably got that in the inbox, and I was like, all right, well, I'm going to apply to this. I'm not going to write about it. I'm just going to like apply to it. So it was like around that time that I was starting to like understand, okay, you get some nice people together and you talk about movies and you help each other out, and it's like actually amazing. It's actually like needed, because there's so many filmmakers and we're all in our own little islands, and we just don't, we're all antisocial, and we're just like, we don't want to, it's just too much noise. I don't know, we just don't, in my opinion, it's just like, it's too hard to stay on the island forever. So whenever there's these moments where we can just get together and talk about what we're trying to do, and we can inspire each other, it's like a really basic thing. It's like so basic, it's like 101, yet we get so caught up in the whole grandeur and the mechanisms of making movies that we forget that it's just like, let's just get together and have some beers and some cake and talk about genre and why, it's, and why, realism is dead or whatever. So yeah, I felt like I was just kind of awakening to this after many years of making movies, that like, hey, I haven't really like got together with any of my peers and like just talked. So it was like a great opportunity to do that with really amazing people. And I remember Jim at the time was like totally on one. I mean, his energy was just like, I mean, it still is like huge, but like we were in that lab, it was like, oh my God, these filmmakers have so much energy and passion, and it's just like, fuck yeah, it's like, yes, cool. So just being around that is like really, really powerful, and that was a lot of my experience of going to the lab, is just kind of moving the energy around a lot.
Yeah, 100%. With my short, I was in the process of submitting to festivals and labs and programs, and I had a friend who was like, you need to submit to the short to feature lab. It's this thing that Jim and Ben and these guys, I was like, great. So I submitted and felt surprised to be selected, but very grateful. And what I knew was that it was going to be 5 days in Malibu, and we were going to sleep in tents in the backyard, which is still true. Yeah, everyone still sleeps in tents.
Yeah, the tents have gotten better because the first year you have to buy like all the tents and all of the sleeping bags, but now we have like little foam mattresses to put inside. So it's gotten cushy. Yeah,
not fair.
Now it's glamping. It was backyard camping 4 or 5 years ago.
It was the jungle 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like why we do that, it's we had done this film together where it was just like we were in an apartment with some friends from college. It was like October of 2014, and we all looked around and everybody decided like, oh shit, nobody has a job right now. And like it's the end of the year is coming up, the industry is going to kind of be shutting down. So we just went around and pitched ideas and came up with like what was the easiest to achieve one. And so we went out and we shot this film 13 cameras with like the people who went on to do American Vandal and Jim and all of these different folks. And the whole time it's like 9.5 days, $30,000 film, and we're sleeping in the backyard out in tents, like all of the producers, the directors, all of that. So it was this very important thing for us of like this reminder of like there's so much sitting and waiting in this industry, and that's appropriate. That's what this industry takes sometimes, but also like your job as a filmmaker isn't just about the industry. Your job as a filmmaker is to go make films, and if you think about it like the term weightlifter, and you apply the amount of time you spend making films, you'd be embarrassed to call yourself a weightlifter often. So it's like, how do you find those things? How do you find that group? How do you support those people alongside you in a way that you can go and continue to bring things from beginning to end, find new audiences and find new ways to tell those stories? So that's kind of like, also it's cheap to have tents. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. And it was, I mean, the whole 5 days was magical. And we all just clicked really quickly. There's a story where they had stocked the house with food and alcohol and things, and they had bought what they thought was enough wine for the entirety of the 5 days, and then we ended up drinking most of it on the first night because we were also like nervous. But it was really a fun time, and it, like they had catering, so we didn't have to think about food. We just had to focus for 5 days on wherever we were at in our creative process. They also had speakers come in, like Matt Miller, who's the head of Vanishing Angle, came in and talked to us about financing. I don't remember. I think we had, I forget if Danny talked about sound.
I think so.
Danny Madden
Yeah.
talked about like sound and film. So we had some speakers come in. We all had mentors. And over those 5 days, some of us had like drafts of scripts. Other people like hadn't even started, like myself, hadn't started thinking about what the draft of my script was going to look like. So I ended up figuring out a lot of things creatively at the lab over those 5 days. And then other people were just in other places. So we all just kind of worked with each other, and Ben and Jim like walked around, and then we would have big family meals with the like, I don't know, 12 of us. But it was really wonderful, and there was a lot of support and idea exchanging. Yeah.
And while we're talking about kind of how it worked and what was useful about it, isn't like to advertise it, but to talk about what you can bring into your own practice. And like whenever we're working on stuff, we try to get these weekends away with other filmmakers that we really like, of just like find a super cheap Airbnb a couple hours away and get people together. They can all be working on their own stuff, but you have this idea of like being able to kind of rapidly iterate and like bounce these ideas off of your trusted peers. Talking about this transition from short to feature, what were the things that you felt like when you were adapting it was like, what was the most important thing about the short, the thing that was holy, that you wanted to make sure really carried forward into the feature?
Well, when we discuss like short to feature, it's kind of an interesting thing because some people have a short film and they want to take that film and they want to expand the story, or they want to, tell a longer version of that story, or just use that as a platform to make something else. And in my case, it was sort of more making a spiritual successor to the short film. It wasn't really carrying on that exact story. It was more carrying on the actor that I found in Peru, who I'd hired to be my translator as I was working on another short film, and very quickly realized that my translator was like a really good actor, and my actor sucked. So I swapped them out real quick. I was like, all right, let's take a break. All right, he's out, you're in. Let's go. And so the most important thing for me was like to listen to him and to honor his stories, You know, he had this whole story about how an anaconda ate his dog, and I ended up making that movie. And so for me, it was about the actor that I found, and trying to find a canvas that would work for his charisma and what he brought to the screen, and what we had, because we were kind of, you know, cultural barriers, language barriers, and yet we still had this way of communicating and being able to like collaborate instantly. And like when you find an actor like that you just click with and like has that thing, and you realize, okay, this person's face has something that I want to say through movies. So that was the most important thing for me, is like taking the actor, developing a larger canvas for him to utilize him. So it wasn't really just taking the same story; it was more just developing off of his news stories.
Yes. So when I made the short, I didn't have any intention of expanding it into a feature, so it felt like very contained, very done for me. But then when I did start thinking about it as a feature, because there was interest in the project, and I was like, okay, what would I want this to look like? The feature is dramatic. It happens at university, and it wasn't something that I wanted to work on for the entirety of a feature. Like again, The Lab was in 2018, shot the movie in 2019, and I made a short before that. So I've been working with this content since 2016, 17, and it's heavy stuff. And when I looked at the resources around me, I was like, what do I have? Well, I know that I can like shoot in the summer in Michigan, and like it'll be picturesque. It'll be like a soft landing place for this character. So the tone of the feature shifts into more of like a dramedy tone, or traumedy is a word I've used, and more the second half of the film is really the straight drama of it all. But the story itself like shifted. The core conflict was the same, but the story was different. And when I went to expand it into a feature, our lead actress, Libe Barrere, who, how I started working with her was when we made the short. Me and Laura Holliday, who's a dear friend of mine, directed it, wonderful. We're looking for Jane, who's the lead in this movie, and we had come up with a whole bunch of lists of like reach people who were like celebrities, people we knew, all of these things. And I was watching Sneaky Pete on Amazon one day, and I just saw Libe Barrere, who's in that ensemble cast, and I was just like, I don't know who this actress is, but she's it. I went on IMDb Pro, and I looked up her manager's contact info, and I called her, and I was like, would she want to do a short film? She did. And then when it came to the feature, I was like, Libe, if I write a role for you, like, do you want to be in this feature? And she's like, yeah, absolutely. And her sister, Ariella Barrere, is also an actress. Most recently, her film, How to Blow Up a Pipeline, came out this year, I think. So I was like, does Ariella want to be in this too? So I wrote a sister story, which the short was not a sister story, but I was like, I got two sister actresses, and they're great. I'm going to write a sister story for them. It's going to be wonderful. So I kind of I took the building blocks that I had which was the locations that I had in Michigan. I knew I could build out what felt like a whole world. I had the talent to lead it, and then I had I guess I will share. In the short, like disfluency filler words were the one thing I talked about. In the feature, I was like, I want to pull in another language element, but I don't want it to be too heavy-handed. I don't want it to be, over the head. So I wanted Jane to share her experience for the first time in a different language with somebody, and the language that I landed on was ASL. So she ends up. She's a linguistic student. She ends up teaching another character sign language in the movie, and that's like how she ends up communicating. So those were the elements that I had brought into the feature from the short.
Yeah, and that idea was something that like then gave you this ability to create like really new things in cinema, and that's one thing that I think as you're talking about this, like really developing the film to your exact resources, but then on the other side of that, like then how do you make it as ambitious as possible, right? What are the things that you can do that are not trying to compete with budget, but just like making something more human and more interesting and revealing to everyone, and really taking this opportunity, because all of these other things are settled, to really challenge yourself and push yourself as a creative. And I think for both of y'all, that was something that like really showed of like, okay, we're doing this, but that allows us all of these other opportunities to experiment and really like succeed as creatives. One thing
It's almost like adapting your own material.
yeah,
It's like, let me take something that the source material, something that I created or you created, and then where do I take that to now? You know, like I can't just tell that again longer. That doesn't make any sense. Let's take it somewhere. Let's treat it like it was somebody else's material, and then let's bring it somewhere. Let's do something new with it, with the medium. So yeah.
one-upping yourself, and
Yeah.
I think doing that constantly, I think is such an important thing. We're going to open it up in just a couple minutes, so get those questions ready. One last thing that I just wanted to cover with y'all is like, what's one big and one small lesson that you took from this process that you think like, yes, you'll carry forward, but are also things like, especially that small lesson, like what do you wish that you had known before you started tackling this?
The project in general?
Yeah.
Well, I would say there are no small lessons, but
Touche.
yeah, fuck your question. No, I think that I mean, I made a movie in the jungle on a river with boats and snakes and dogs, and in a language that I barely spoke. So,
And then one that you really didn't speak at all, which is, yeah.
yeah, and a native language that has not been captured in any other film yet. So, in that respect, we all, as filmmakers, we think we have like some control over what we're doing. There's no such thing as control, you know. There's only like showing up to the altar and like kneeling and asking, and that's the big lesson that I came with. And I think that's true at every level. I mean, no matter how much money you have or however much firepower you have in your production, you're still coming to the same altar and asking for permission to get through the day. So that's a really big lesson. And I guess to entertain your question for a small lesson, it's just kind of like what you were saying before, which is you have to get in the gym, you know, and like try to lift. And as directors or filmmakers, like it's kind of hard to practice because like you get your shot once every few years to make something or whatever it is, and you put everything into it, and then the rest of the time you're just like splayed out and like, what the fuck is going on? So I think it's really important to like pretend to practice or try to practice in any way you can. And for me, like going to the lab was kind of like practicing. It's like, okay, I get to get into this box with other people and we get to pretend like we're practicing for a second, and it keeps your tool sharper. So, you know, don't underestimate the power of just like talking to other people about it during the process, because we need each other like a lot more than we want to admit.
Well, and both of y'all are like fully professionally engaged outside of your directing as well. And I think that's such an important thing is like, you're constantly collaborating, you're constantly doing these things. So it's great when it's like your time to lead, but you're also so much further along because you spend so much of your effort and your creativity supporting others and creating projects alongside.
Yeah, off of like preparing. Okay, so I'll share how I prepared creatively. No, I'm choking and need water. No, now you guys gotta talk. while
Yeah,
I'm
sure.
drinking water.
Yeah.
Water in a box.
I mean, if people want to come down and like start queuing up for questions, we'll be turning to that in just a sec.
Okay, I think we're good. I hadn't directed anything in a couple of years. So one thing I did was I did shoot a short while I was still writing and prepping the feature, because I was like, I need to like work with my DP. I need to like do these things. So the crew that was based out in LA, well, first I should say our crew was Michigan, and alumni of the and it was also alumni of the University of Michigan where I went to school, who then moved out to LA. So some of us flew in from LA, and so I had some key members here. So I made a short, I put my own money into it, and it was great practice. Another thing I did, I take this workshop, which I still take today, run by John Shear, who is a directing professor at Tisch, who runs workshops in LA, where actors and directors go in a room and you can use your own material, you can pull from a TV show, whatever it is, and then somebody walks around with, a camera like it's, a phone like it's the camera, and you actually like block things out and like work with actors. So I took several of the key scenes from the movie into class, and I cast them out of the class and workshopped them, which informed my writing process as well. So those were like some creative things that I had done.
How much was the budget for that short?
That short was like $4,000 or $5,000 total.
Yeah, and so that's an important thing. Like, people often think that they need all of these resources to be able to like get their opportunity, and so like you took a big chance with that, but like you can do that. Like Thunder Road, the short, I think was like 4,500. Our short Krista, which won a couple of awards at South by Southwest, became Beast, maybe $2,000. And then you can also like in between, those are like, they take a long time. You're really putting yourself out there, but then you can also like go and just shoot shit in a parking lot with your friends. And like sometimes you cut it together and it works well, and like you might put it out online, and sometimes you take a look at the dailies and you're like, well, that was great. Like we had pizza and beers. Like that's okay, and that's not a failure. That's just like developing your process and developing your collaborations.
Yeah, absolutely. And and I put up that money, which is like was and is a lot of money to me. But it was
certainly, yeah.
Yeah, but it was so important that I did that, and that I had the equipment I was going to use on the that we worked with we used the same exact camera that we then flew with from LA to Michigan, because it was like a friend's camera that I still rented, but it was still a better deal than, whatever it might have been. So creatively, I prepped in that way leading up to it. Some lessons I learned were I decided to direct it too close to when we were shooting. Like if I had made that decision sooner, I would have had a lot more time to be with my producer and be settled in. But I think I decided to direct it like 3 to 4 months out of shooting it, which isn't terrible. And we did work on it. I found a great creative partner who has produced in LA and Michigan. And I did not budget for prep. So everyone had
Nice.
Yeah, no. This is my like, please budget for prep. And how many weeks would you say that you need for prep? In what positions, Ben?
So I'm always on the ground like 6 weeks out, basically, with the director, and often it's just the two of us. And like one of the ways to budget for this is like just fire your location manager before you start. So
Damn.
like
Cool.
just like take that line item out and put it into an Airbnb. And I like the Chrysler Pacifica. Big fan of a rental minivan.
Any location managers out there?
Yeah.
Sorry.
But yeah, I think that time on the ground, and like for me, building something in situ and really about the place that you're doing it, I think that's been one of the bigger things that has helped our films translate worldwide. Really thinking about like what it means to do a film in northern Utah, do a film in Texas, do a film in this place and that place. It's like, I think it's so important for American filmmakers to stop competing with themselves and with each other. And like, you should be making world cinema and really thinking about yourself in that way and thinking about what the opportunities are elsewhere. So I think that's one of those like responsibilities that I really feel when we build that prep is I need to show off something that is particular and human that nobody else can. And it's because we're there and we're paying attention and we're building everything in particular for this film, and it'll only be done this way once.
Yes. That is very true and wise.
So how'd it go?
So no, it wasn't terrible. I will say that, but I did have a guardian angel on my shoulder for some specific reasons. So we probably had, me and my DP flew out during 4th of July and did about a week of like location scouting and like testing and talking about things. When we went back, my crew my crew I would say probably had a week of prep. It was just me and my producer up till that point, not on location. So it was kind of a whirlwind when we got there. I ended up hiring a production designer like a few days before we shot, which was, you're also wearing so many hats, and I have, ADHD and executive dysfunction. Like, shout out to all my friends out there. I know there's at least one of you. So I knew everything I had to do as a producer with my other producer, but it was just a learning curve.
Well, and it's a role you're more comfortable with at that
Yes.
point. Like
Yeah.
you were already a good producer, so taking that on is natural.
For sure.
So what were a couple of the like obstacles that you hit in that moment that you were like, oh, well,
Yes. So
self-inflicted?
we hadn't cast most of the roles when we began shooting. I had my lead sisters. I cast the other main role like a week or two out from shooting. I had people, and I will say this is a catch-22. One, we have an amazing cast. Part of the reason I think we have that cast is because we asked so close to when we were shooting. This is still not me advising to do this. We cast so close to when we were shooting that they weren't booked for TV shows or movies at the time. They were all working TV actors for the most part. So they were available and they could come out at like the drop of a hat, and they wanted to do something media and creative. And so I got a great cast, and like Dylan, who plays the love interest, Dylan Arnold, who plays the love interest in this, like the Halloween shooting schedule had shifted just a week, so I could cast him. Like he was originally cast like months ago, and then we couldn't, and then it was a lot of, anyways, cast in advance is the moral of that story. Also get your locations in advance, because we didn't have every single location. We also had like an apartment location fall through on the day of shooting, and my producers just like pulling up Airbnbs and being subtly like, does this look nice to you? And I'd be like, yeah, but why are you showing me something? And they'd be like, don't worry.
Yikes, yeah. Yeah.
But like that kind of shit, that happens like regardless of whatnot. But prep, and then the last thing I'll say is my producer, because I was producing up until the day we shot, like very heavy-handedly.
Yeah.
And he was like, Anna, you're going to be a director now. I will tell you when I need you. And also, I'm going to make sure that you sleep. You're going to get a full 8 hours every night. And that was so important. Like, I was surprised about how similar making a feature felt to making a short. Because I was like, oh, I know how to do this. Like, it's just like a set like I've normally been on. But it's longer, and taking care of your body and yourself is so important. And I was so grateful for that advice, and that he protected me from myself.
Yeah. I honestly, like, I set an alarm that goes off like 7 hours before I have to get up. And it's just like anybody who's up in the house is working at that point. I just send everybody back to bed. You've got to go for like weeks and weeks on end. But I think just to wrap up, like these lessons, I think so much of it is like identifying and taking care of everything that you can possibly think of, because there is just going to be so much that comes up that's just unexpected. Every single feature has like this wild and weird thing that happens, but it really takes like the ability to have the bandwidth. And so when you have the ability, just like shoot all of the fish that are already in the barrel every day, just like make the decisions you can make right then, so that you have the time and space to make them later. And just to piggyback quick on the casting late, that is a strategy, not that late, but
No, not that late.
but especially if you're doing like working in the ultra low budget range, it like casting 6 to 4 weeks out, you'll be at the point where it is really helpful, because it's a yes or no at that point. So we're ready for audience questions now, if anybody wants to come up.
Micah, did you deal with some shit?
I had no challenges. No.
Copy.
Everything went very smoothly. Yeah. Well, actually, the river rose. Was it 17 feet? One fleet? How many? Yeah, 17 feet. We got water rise. So we had underwater locations. So that was a whole other story we can talk about later.
Hey guys, thanks so much for being here. This has been great. This is sort of to something you were speaking about earlier in terms of wanting to make a short, like with the camera you were, or with the DP that you were planning on shooting with. I guess something I'm always concerned about is like getting distracted, like running down like a short film rabbit hole when, you know, I should be keeping my eyes on the prize. So I guess, what methods do you have for sort of figuring out what work to pursue when and how it's, you know, moving you forward in addition to like making a fun thing that you want to make?
For sure. So I made that short like 6 months before we did production. So I was not really doing them. I wasn't doing any of the production parts at the same time, but I always prioritize the feature. So I think, I mean, here's the other thing. I was working full time when I was shooting my feature, and that's part of the reason why I couldn't do 6 weeks of prep on site is I had a day job. My background, my bread and butter is real or unscripted TV development. So I write pitch decks and help pitch shows for a living. So I was doing that at the same time. I would go home at 6 p.m. and then like work on pre-production. So I had like knew my priorities, like where they were, and you just got to know ultimately which one is the most important. And then also know, like if you're like you personally, when you're thinking about like making a feature, what's the part that like makes you most nervous about the actual process, and then work on that. So if it's like, I have never worked with this actor before and I really want to make sure that we have a rapport, like shoot something quick with them. And, you know, one location inside, you know, within your, you know, limitations. If it is about like a new like key player, work with them. If it's about working at a certain location, try to shoot something at that location if you can. That would be my advice for that.
Great.
I mean, in terms of not getting, you know, sidetracked with a short film rabbit hole, as you say, I mean, I feel like there's a philosophy that like, oh, you have to make a short first, or like it's a nice proof of concept, or it's like, what is a short film? Like, is it an actual medium, or is it just an ad for yourself or your work? Like, so it's kind of confusing to me even now. Like, what is a short film? Like, is it actually a film? I mean, the
good ones are.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the good ones are. So, you know, it's like, what are you trying to do? Like, is this short film? Is it a short film? Or is it just trying to get you to the next step and like identifying which one it is for you, and then you can put your energy accordingly?
Yeah, and the worst things out there are all from this want to be doing something else, and you happen to be doing this as a way to get there. So following like where your intentions and your energy are, and if you're putting an obstacle in front of yourself, it's going to look like an obstacle to the audience.
Oh. One more thing I want to add too is for every feature you make, you don't need to have like a proof of concept or a short, but you do need something that shows that you are technically skilled enough to make something in the same tone, genre, whatever it is. So if you're pitching a feature, horror movie, whatever it might be, make sure that you have something that is somewhat comparable. Like you have to make that, but it doesn't have to be the exact same story or whatever. I feel like people feel like they have to go out and shoot a short film that is their, you know, a short version of their feature, and that's just not true.
Yeah, it's tone. Next question.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely, thank you.
Hey, thank you guys so much again. I guess this is kind of a follow-up to what was just talked about. Can you guys talk a little bit more about like which elements of your short film you guys figured out would not like hold up for a feature, and then which parts you decide to keep, and like how did you guys sift through all those decisions?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I wasn't really making a direct feature from my short. It was, again, it was more just about taking my actor and building something for him into a different canvas, different size canvas. So the most important thing for me was kind of having a sense for what kind of shoes he could fill, and then making those shoes. So, yeah.
Yeah, you don't have to do everything in a feature film, especially a first feature. So making sure that you continually, every scene is just something that you're good at. It's so important. Like you can miss some of this stuff that like we're taught, like you should have this at this minute and this at this and this at that. But like if you're continuing to succeed and do good work for the audience, the whole 90 minutes, they'll forgive a lot of different things.
Yeah. I would say like a short film your short and your feature don't need to have the same beginning, middle, and end. It could be, your short film could be a scene from what the feature is. So for mine, again, I had the same-ish character and the same lead actress and the same core conflict throughout the whole thing. And that's what I take, but I moved it to a different story with like all different characters.
And a different, part of that journey for sure.
Yeah.
Thank you.
This is sort of roughly kind of the same question, but a little.
We'll get better
different.
at answering it.
We promise.
So you both have had the opportunity to make a short film and a feature film in kind of the same world that you were doing. And so I was wondering what to you makes a good short film versus what makes a good feature film, and how those two things can be different and the same.
For me, short films are totally mysterious. I don't understand them. My instincts are for 90-minute format. I always think, oh, that would be a cool movie, and then it's a 90-minute thing. And so I don't know, again, I don't know what a short film is. I don't know if it's an advertisement. I don't know if it's like a complete thought. I don't think it's poetry, because I think feature film was more like poetry in a weird way. It's weird. It's like feature film is like short form, and short film is like long form in some weird way. I don't know if that makes sense, but for me, short film was a very mysterious medium, and when it doesn't work, everybody knows instantly. And when it works, it's like, whoa, what did I just experience? Is that a movie that I just watched? It was 9 minutes. Was that a movie? Like, wow, that's really cool. So it's very mysterious. And I don't think you have to answer it. I just think, you'll know if it's a movie, no matter how long it is when you experience it.
I also think it's mysterious. And
Nice.
I do. But I do think it's more like poetry. Like, I think how we think of like what makes a good short story, what makes a good novel, those can be two very different things. And you can read amazing short stories, but you don't want to read, like, if that was expanded into a novel, you'd be like, this isn't the right medium. So I do think about them, like my personal philosophy on it, I think about them as very separate things. And I think a good short film should stand on its own. And I do think any proof of concept, like the best mileage you're going to get out of that is for it to stand on its own as its own piece of art, and not like when you watch something and you're like, oh, this feels like the first scene in a TV show, or this feels like XYZ. I think you'll get the most mileage if it's its own thing.
Yeah, and if you're trying to work backwards, I think people try and give the beginning of a concept as the short film, and I think that's so hard because you're just going to explain the whole fucking time. And so if you're going to like take a part of something, like it should be a second act. Like that's kind of what you can get away with, because you can start in the middle with a lot of things, like really trust your audience, they will catch up, and you can just like get into the concept right away in a way that like you have to do some more like hand-holdy stuff in the future.
I guess if television is long form, like a novel, and a feature film is like a poem, then a short film is maybe like a haiku.
Okay.
What do you think about
Yeah.
that? You know,
Ooh.
it's severely missing elements, but it feels oddly complete. It's that, just watch the Japanese filmmakers; they'll teach you.
Thank you.
Do we have more questions?
Come up here. Be our friend. I saw you.
So my name's also Anna, and I
Excellent.
also
Nice.
have ADHD.
Yes.
I have so much trouble, like like, I have something and then I get tired and then like I go to another thing, but then I'm like, oh no, I gotta go do the other thing. How do you structure your life? And if you do, can you teach me?
Girl, you and me both. This is a great question that I'm currently wrestling with because I'm trying to work on writing my next feature script, but then I get pulled into like, oh, but I have this pilot that's half written that I like feel like today. Something that I've started doing is I've started like putting timers on for myself. So I'll set 20 minutes, everything else goes away. I have to like, it's only me and the page for like 20 minutes, and then I'm allowed to like walk around I like gamify it. I gamify a lot of my life. I have to challenge myself. So you will find your thing. But it is hard to like make something and finish it, but it's also very important. So we can talk after later. We can have an Anna conversation.
Sounds good.
And identifying as many steps as possible so you can break it down, right? Like identify all of the bite sizes out there, and then you can just go and like use this as a superpower actually, where you're able to like, boom, I've got 20 minutes here, I can take care of this thing. I've got half an hour of energy, I've got 5 minutes of energy, I've got this, I've got that. And so you don't have to progress in order, right? And if you have a larger sense of here's everything that needs to happen for me to get through this thing, then you can just pick and choose where your energy is because you have a surplus of it. So like use that to your advantage.
Absolutely, yeah. I don't do anything in order either. I don't start from page 1 and go. I'm always just like, okay, boom, oh, I'm on page 35. Oh, hell yeah, I'm page 77. Okay, now back to page 2. Like, that's okay. You don't have to feel guilty about bouncing around too much. Like, you'll know within yourself if you're cheating or not. If you're just escaping one problem with another problem, like, you'll know that, and that'll feel bad. But, like, don't feel too bad if you're actually doing stuff, like, because that's okay.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yes. Oh, I have a quick question. Are you a writer?
Yes.
Okay. So, and this is relevant because Jim showed me his like outline for Thunder Road. This was really liberating for me. He like pulled it up and it was like one page with just the headers. Thunder Road is a lot of like one takes. So he just like, it was so simple. And I was like, this is how my brain works. And so that really helped me. So what I do now in my writing process is I write out as much as I know in headers and like the main plot points, and then I'll write those scenes and then I'll fill in the blanks between them. So I don't always write linearly. I'll be like, I know what the first 10 pages is. I know what the big fight in the middle is. I know how the last 25 pages are going to go, and I'll write those and it'll help inform the process. So
I'll try that. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Mm-hmm.
My name is not Anna, so sorry about that. But
Next.
I'm sorry I bullied you.
I know we're trying to keep the theme going, but I was wondering if you guys could speak to going from the short to the feature and how you guys raised money, or it sounds like maybe you like scrapped it together with your film, Anna. If you guys could just speak to that process and also what you learned in that informs the next films you're gonna make.
It's a lot of duct tape. Yeah. One of the like bigger concepts that I like to think about is like, okay, as we were just talking about actually, is like how do you break it down into smaller things? So instead of trying to raise $300,000 at once, identifying these like $25,000 buckets and start doing it that way so that like you can build momentum. It's so easy to just continue to try and have the same conversations. But if you're only looking for one thing as success, which is I get $300,000 or I don't, that's really tough. Instead of like each time you accomplish one of these buckets, it makes the other buckets easier to fill. And then also, I think that there's a real disservice that filmmakers do to themselves, which is they only try to raise money privately in rooms that they can get in themselves. And you have no idea who your audience is in terms of who's watching it. So how do you make sure that you're getting to them in as many ways as possible? So like when we were at South by Southwest with this short film Krista, and we had a couple of awards, we sat up because we knew we had the attention at that moment, and we were putting it on Vimeo the next day, and we stayed up all night, launched a Kickstarter page, and did that immediately as we had the momentum. And that's the first thing is we're putting the short that you can go and give money to the feature right away. And so we got like $20,000 through that, but we also then got attention, right? So the $20,000, great, that's one bucket full. But then we were able to connect with people who knew about us because we've done this thing. So we've done that in different ways with a lot of different films, but thinking of what that is, of like, how do you shout about this in as big of a way as possible at the moment that you have the most momentum?
Really quickly, the buckets, are you talking about just that having be like a psychological tool? Or are you actually associating those $25,000, $30,000 buckets with portions of the line items in the...
Portions of the line item.
got it, okay.
Like, great, we have $25,000. Now we have a casting director. Now we have a schedule. Now we have this. Now we have that. I mean, the amount of times which like totally don't do this, but like what you really need to do sometimes is go and shoot your film and figure out how the fuck you're doing post later, right? All of that type of thing of like, great, well, we'll figure out that $150,000 issue later. But it's going to be a lot easier to do that when you have a whole bunch of really cool footage, right? You have all of this stuff, so.
Yeah, I've always started with a crowdfunding on every project I've ever done. It's like, okay, is this happening? Throw it up. It forces you to do it. And also just I would just say don't wait for money to come in to do the first step. Because I have like a lot of friends who are like, I'm going to make my movie, but like I'm waiting for money so I can start my LLC. It's like, just eat the LLC money, make the LLC, and now you're on the hook and now you're going. Like, be ready to catch the money when it's coming instead of being like, oh, I'm not quite ready yet. Like, make yourself ready.
Yeah, we call it creating a rumor, then making it true. Yeah.
Yeah, I would also say, like, I don't know how you guys feel, but the fundraising in and of itself feels like this intangible thing of like, how do you do it? What's the pathway? And it's the reason why there isn't a bunch of what I think like literature on how to do it out there that's really well-known way is because it's different for every single movie. And there's different kinds of money, and what kind of money is attached to your film is very important. Like who it's coming from. Is it loans? Is it this? Is it that? I like piecemealed mine together, but I started with a fundraising campaign on Seed and Spark. It was through a competition called Hometown Heroes that the Duplass brothers ran, but I raised $10,000 off the bat, and then like the next money that came in was like a friend of a friend's mom read the script and liked it, and then I had 25. Then I got 25, and then I had another 10 from here, and then someone came in with like 100. Like it just all of it feeds into itself, like Ben says. But the money can come from like strange places.
Yeah.
Places
You have
you
no
wouldn't
idea. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we have one last question.
Yeah, thank you guys so much.
Yeah.
At the same time.
You can. We'll be.
And we'll also be right out there in
Yeah.
the lobby afterwards. We've got to clear this room pretty quickly. I was supposed to read that at the beginning too. But we'll be out there and we'll be chatting, maybe drinking tequila soda bitters. Yeah.
It's got to be good. Hopefully this is good. So speaking on like a first feature situation, where is your balance between there's a level of conviction and this is the story that I need to tell as a feature, right? Versus like being strategic, being tactical, because it's your first feature, whether it's limited locations, limited actors,
Sure.
or whatever. Versus, I need to tell this story. It's coming out of me, no matter how crazy or line item is.
Yeah. I mean, Anna like was able to. You probably have a dozen locations.
Yeah.
Easily.
Mm-hmm.
And like Beast that we did, we had like maybe 30, but our budget for locations was like $200, right?
Ours too.
Yeah. So it was like, okay, like we're writing to our advantages. We know we can get all these places. It was like there was one dance school that it was like, okay, we need to like just pay somebody to keep the door open for us. But that's the thing. It's like you can think of this again and again as things that you're telling yourself no about, but you have to really look in the other way and like, what are the things that you can tell yourself yes about creatively and approach it that way. Less locations is nice because there's less time that you need to spend getting between them, and there's more time acting, but like there's a lot of opportunity to be ambitious.
All right, I think we have to wrap it up, but I would just say, listen to Sidney Lumet. He says, for the first feature, you don't need a reason. Just go make it. Every feature after that, you need a real good reason. So, yeah.
All right, thanks, y'all.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
American Cinema Tech. And panelist outro.